the wall, and it is gone. A home run. Max Muncy hits it on out. His 19th home run of the year. And with one swing, the Dodgers and Pirates are now all even at 1.
And the 1-1. Swung on and hit in the air to left. That ball is high. It is far. It is gone. Oh, I'm just wild about Harry. He hits a 3-run home run to break the 3-3 tie. And the Yankees now take a 6-3 lead.
The pitch. Fry with a line drive to left. Rosario going back toward the line. He can't make the catch. Base hit. Game winner. In the scores, Rosario. David Fry being mobbed at second base. A walk-off. 2 out. RBI single to left by David Fry. And Cleveland's got its 5th walk-off win of the year.
Good morning. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. DB, Andrew Rogers, happy to be back. Wednesday feels like Monday, but we're halfway through the week, so it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's like we hit fast forward, except I can't hear you one
lick?
So, not a thing. I mean, I can hear you next to me, so
that's just because I'm too loud.
That'll suffice. But shoot, it's not like I can hear you in my headset or anything.
My headset feels new.
Does it?
Yeah,
it's so
it
new.
feels like it's never been worn. You know how you put on the muffs and you're like, these are kind of soft. This is like attached to my head.
These are snug, but I really can't hear a thing. So, Shane, just talk to me and say something.
Good morning, Damon.
Nope, not a clue.
So
not
it's a
snowball's
nobody.
chance in heck that thing is really doing anything. So, hey.
And the best part is this is a 24-minute segment.
Yeah, well, we just pretend.
What if we
it's okay. Like, I won't get too distracted. I think I can.
Bent the
I think I can muster it. It's always some sort of magical chord. Or
welcome
button.
back.
Yeah. Uh-oh. I heard that.
I heard the O in the intro.
I thought very quiet, but
who lives in a pineapple under the sea was going to follow that call. Oh,
I'm just wild about Harry. He is something else. But I mean, that personality is totally
God.
Oh. It's really faint. But that's okay. It's good enough.
That audio was faint too?
Yeah.
Oh.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
Don't.
That's what I thought of right away.
We just got back together. Don't. Let's
we broke up and now we're trying it again.
He's on it. Well, it's like the clip we just watched. Costanza didn't happen.
Yeah.
Oh,
you took that seriously?
Yeah, it's just.
Oh, come on!
Well,
I'm teasing.
Oh, come on, Bill.
That whole SDSU stuff is wild.
Don't I, Bill? Well, I wouldn't say all the time. Yeah, I have no idea what San Diego State's doing.
Laughing stock.
No, it was crazy because did you just get back yesterday?
No, I came back Monday night.
Monday night?
I
Oh, you
wanted
wanted
the
a day
day
to chill.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I hear you. That's smart. I
could have stayed, but
I should have told Lupe because I saw Lupe in the neighborhood 2 nights ago.
So Monday,
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you were back.
Mm-hmm.
Lupe was doing big fireworks around the corner, and Zoe could see it from
our neighborhood seemed like a hot spot.
Oh my goodness.
There were 4 different shows going on.
I mean, and they were big time.
Mm-hmm. Molly hates fireworks too.
So our block though, like just as like my street, dead as a doornail. Oh, so Halloween was not a fluke. I think it's just one of those streets.
You guys are just like the under the radar.
I firmly believe that we just aren't going to talk to one another ever.
That's okay with you though.
About much of anything.
Yeah, you moved to the right house.
Yeah. Although I told Lupe, I said, you don't understand. I don't talk to any adults here. But Lupe and I, we were going to be besties.
Did he invite you over to the garage for tequila?
Yes.
And you did it?
Yeah, it was like, I just walked. It's literally right around the corner. It's probably 9:40 maybe. It's dark. obviously.
Were you outside at this time and he just saw you?
Yeah, so Caleb was just getting ready to leave because allegedly they were going to make cinnamon rolls or something. And he swore up and down he was going to bring Zoe one.
Wait, this is AM.
No, this is
PM. Okay.
Yeah, because
I'm following.
Yeah, because he was leaving yesterday. And so I think he just wanted to like hang out as long as he could before going to, I don't know. I think his friend has fireworks in their neighborhood or something.
Oh.
And they were going to do something nice. But the cinnamon rolls didn't do something nice for Zoe. But the cinnamon rolls didn't turn out. So when she got up yesterday, she wanted to know where the cinnamon rolls were. But he'd already gone to go work out because he wanted to get one in before they left for South Carolina. And she said, maybe they're in his car. So this little girl literally waited for like 34 minutes till he got home. And
for them not to be in the car.
He's like, Zoe, they were hard as a rock. I don't know. Like I told Dad, because when he came home that night, I was still up and Zoe hadn't been asleep very long. And I was like, hey, go in and tell your sister goodnight. She's been waiting. But she was so sleepy she didn't remember. So she kept wanting to FaceTime. I'm like, Sophie. I'm like, Zoe, he's working out. Like, she's like, but it's not that far. It's just because it's over at the 118 building. And so that turned into a debacle. But then they like hung out up until he had to go to the airport, which he forgot his driver's license and debit card.
Two things that would help you while you travel.
It's unbelievable. I'm coming around the terminal thing and he goes, oh my gosh. And I just dread it, right? I'm like, what? Yes. Like driver's license and debit card is in my car.
Oh my gosh.
So he kept driving.
No, I dropped him off. Had Oklahoma Tyler, because I was just worried about his luggage. They didn't play yesterday. They don't play until this morning. So I just wanted his luggage there. So I like Venmo'd Tyler like $30 to check his luggage in. Because I think it's $30 for a carry-on, which these airlines, we got to talk. It's extortion. They flew Delta.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
And then he just waited, and I pulled back around, and he came out to grab it. So they had to be there at noon, and I didn't get back there until probably 12:45. But his bags were already on. He had time, right? It's a 2:00 flight.
That's why you get there 2 hours early.
So, but back to Lupe. Lupe listens to the show. He just put 2 and 2 together that you live in the neighborhood because we were talking something about the park maybe. And he's like, well, how would he know that? It's like, well, wait a minute. Does he live by us? I said, yeah. I said, I'm not exactly sure where. I just know that it's right around the corner.
Yeah, throw a baseball, you'll hit my house.
Yeah, but I mean, just cooler than he has a punching bag in his garage. And it's
one of those guys.
It's water. Oh, it's fantastic. Like it doesn't hurt.
Like what it absorbs.
Because I just think about those 80-pound bags like with Bud or something. And it's just it gives. It's like,
did you try it out?
Oh yeah. Well, he's one of those guys that has such a nice disposition. He's like, no, go on, hit it. No. And I'm
not going to hit it.
Go
on and hit it. I'm not going to hit it.
Yeah,
fine.
That's exactly how it went. Because we're like at the end of the driveway. We're the only. This is 9:45 at night in the corner of his driveway, and he's like, "No, I gotta go hit it." It's like, "Nah." About 5 minutes later, you'll never guess what's in that bag. You gotta go hit it. It's like I'm not gonna hit it. Eventually, I hit it.
Yeah.
It was so.
You want me to hit it? Fine, I'll hit it.
So I didn't like. So the adult neighborhood interaction was actually pretty cool. I said, "Oh, I may just be that guy that just walks on over."
Hey, some people are just that.
He's like, just knock. But Lupe is fit.
Well, if he's got a punching bag,
ex-military too. Like Lupe
he
stays busy. Said he's going to order some more reposado too. He's like, yeah, I got my buddies coming back from Mexico. I was like, I'm your Huckleberry. It's one of the few lines I remember from that movie, even though I do like Westerns. I binged a lot of bad television. Bad television. I didn't leave my house very much for like 3 consecutive days.
Well, what was it? Sunday we were texting back and forth?
Yeah.
And you were doing a lot of cooking that
Yeah.
day?
Yeah. And then was it Saturday or Sunday that they had Shane, because you have cable now? Not. Hunger Games. So I watched
Did you watch 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, I didn't watch Mockingjay Part 2.
Oh, there's a second one?
Yeah. Yeah, they stormed the Capitol and it's weird. PETA gets on my nerves. He turned out to be an idiot. I should have known. He looked like such a gump from the jump. I'm like,
He's just a softie.
I'm like, why are you messing with this dude? He's a turd burglar. But I actually sat through 3 Hunger Games. I know.
Not a short movie.
No, not a short movie at all. But it was all good.
I watched 3 movies when I got back. Not on Monday night.
Do you guys do a
watched one
ton
on
of fireworks?
Tuesday, too. Do we go see fireworks?
Oh, so you don't get them? You go see them?
No, yeah.
No way Barry's watching his money go up in smoke.
You're telling me. He's struggling to go to Vegas for the bachelor party. He's
Really?
like, I'm going to go. I don't know if I'm going to gamble, though. He's like, I don't want to see my money disappear.
That seems so Barry-esque.
Well, he's also a big safety nut. So he doesn't even when my uncles used to get fireworks, like my Uncle Tom, he's my godfather. He would always.
Is Sarah joking there somewhere?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's too early.
There's no punchline for this.
It's too early for that.
No.
Okay, so Tom and Barry, salt of the earth, baby.
So they would always get fireworks, and he's like, Andrew, you come light this one. And then my dad would say, Andrew, you better not go light that. I was battling the two, and I of course had to listen to my dad over my Uncle Tom, even though I really wanted to do what my Uncle Tom was going to let me do.
Right.
But it's also low key because my dad wasn't going to let me do it. So it's act out a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're just big watchers. Our neighbors at the lake, they buy. One guy's I think he's an orthopedic surgeon, and the wife is in pharmaceutical sales, so they do pretty well for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think they probably spend $5,000 on fireworks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And their show is massive. They were shooting them off. Let's just say they started at 9:45, probably went till about 10:30.
Really?
Yeah, so that's how long the show was. And my sister's funny, my younger sister. They went to bed about 10, and her and her fiance, they sleep in separate rooms. They're texting back and forth about the show and how I can't believe they're still shooting off fireworks. But then my soon-to-be brother-in-law is like, well, at least I get to see the show from the window. But they're complaining about the fireworks going off at 10. And I'm like, wait a second here. You're in bed at 10. I think that should be the complaint right now.
So even last night with the rain, it was probably 11:30, and I could still hear a few.
That's a little different. What's the cap? Is there an Omaha cap?
Yeah, I don't know. I know there is for the day. I don't think you can shoot them off today.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's a time, a neighborhood ordinance.
Are you even allowed to do it, or do people just do it?
I don't know. I think people
get away
just,
with it.
I think they just take it.
Well, if there's 6 shows happening in our neighborhood, how can the cops really police what's
I don't know.
happening?
Legally, I don't know the drill though.
That's
do you?
Another reason why I don't get fireworks. I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't have any idea.
Mm-mm. I would guess that you can't shoot them off past 11:30. That would be my guess. But is that too late?
Yeah, I just couldn't believe.
What about the show downtown? When did that one get over?
I don't know. Somebody asked me if we were, did he say live streaming? Simulcasting something from Warner? And I was like, no. Are you
Were we wearing jerseys?
Are you messing with me? But yeah, I don't know what the time is.
I wore jerseys all weekend.
You just living your best life
all weekend,
free of criticism, with your jersey wearing family. 2
soccer jerseys and a Cardinal jersey all weekend.
I don't know about you. I
took some heat from Mr. Nielsen on Twitter yesterday.
And you know what's funny? He's like one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
I can tell by the way that he presents the information.
Super gentle spirit. Like he's an educator too.
He's got littles
like
jerseys.
He's like super unassuming. Like even, he's a huge Gretna guy, and we'd always, we'd talk back and forth at basketball, because obviously at football I'm a little busy. And yeah, I sit up in the corner. He brings his littles, comes and shoots the breeze right before the game. It's kind of like a thing now. Either it'll come before or after, because I'm not in a hurry to get out of there either. I wait till everybody leaves, and of course, right. And we usually sit at the top of the bleachers and talk about life. Usually one of the 2 or 3 of the educators that I like over there, vice versa, he'll ask about them. Yeah, he very kind.
Will his kiddos have to move to Gretna East,
Oh, he does not strike me as Gretna pub through and through. But they're young. They're like under.
I think he's got like a family of 4.
Yeah,
at least in his Twitter bio.
And I see the 3 youngest. So and they're all under. I'm gonna guess 11 or 12.
Okay, so they still have a decent ways to go.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, Shane, will there be blood? I never saw that movie. Did you see that movie? There Will Be Blood. I don't know if it's nasty or not between East and.
I drove by East yesterday because I went over to a friend of mine's pool, and that campus looks like a college campus.
Well, you called it a campus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are your those are your tax-paying dollars at work. I mean, that's so, and people just don't. It's like, people get into school choice and this, that, and the other, and I always try to tell people, I'm like, there's this thing called tax-based revenue where your property taxes go school districts in your area. So the more the property tax and the levies, typically the better the schools are. Like, that's just the way the world works. And it's like, oh man, but you shouldn't be able to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, somewhere along the line, I don't know where, it just got disproportionate, right? I don't, I'm not big into, like, I'm gonna try to stick to sports, whether it's redlining or whatever, or white flight or whatever. Just the disparity in public schools just continue to widen. But once upon a time, you used to pick your home by what schools were
school districts, or what school district will fall in.
You don't have to do that so much anymore, obviously, with open enrollment, but like, it was a lot more affordable too. It's just.
So would you make the move to East if you're a student, like bring yourself back to high school age? Would you make the move because of the athletic facilities and like how brand new they are?
Like just me personally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I saw a couple of those guys.
Because I feel like you could rally your friends and say, hey.
So the 3 guys. So I saw Pekorski this weekend hooping. I saw Alex Wilcoxon, and I saw Joey Beath, all Dragons. Right. And I can't see any of those.
Leaving?
No, but they've all played together for so long. They just strike me as Dragons through and through.
Right. Well, I guess the coach has to move.
Does it matter? Does it matter? I don't know if kids think about
that at all.
Facilities like that
in high school, maybe not.
I don't think so. I think they think winning, or who's coaching them, right? Which usually equates to winning. By the way, shout out to Coach Samanji, Coach of the Year.
Yes, all that. Congratulations to him.
There's way more to that story, just with his own personal journey. I mean, he was almost going to be done coaching. Did
he go into that at all?
Not really.
Or does he kind of keep that information?
Yeah, he that's just not his deal. But I don't know if there's like just with the split thing, I don't know if it's nasty or not. I didn't ask my buddies Elkhorn South, Elkhorn North, like the zone. Like I didn't get into that, but the only ones that I know are like nasty are Papio South.
Still?
Oh yeah. And I don't think it's like super hunky dory within the Millards, west, south, and north. I know that like they do not. That's
You know what's funny about that is I don't even know if that would be like bothersome at the end of the day to me. Like my personality. So my high school shut down because the archdiocese said, "Hey, well, we're just not going to keep you guys open." So like I could be really salty to the archdiocese back in St. Louis because of that. Like it sucks because I can't go back and see a high school football game, or
But were you done with school?
I was done with school. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But still, like,
no, I feel you.
You just don't have anything to go back to. But I also don't let it bother me.
That would be interesting. Nothing to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Could never coach there.
Yeah, you can't.
Could never attend another basketball game.
A lot of people here, I'm sure, feel like that about like Tech High, which was legendary. I mean, a lot of the greats of the greats went there, and now it's a teacher educational center,
right? Right. So
or administrative center.
Like it sucks, but would I really let it like bother me?
I don't know how those
constantly
guys,
talked about.
I don't know how those guys feel. Like I remember talking to like Monty and those guys, Christo, when this must have been Elkhorn South. Cole Eaton, a lot of these guys that like had the choice to stay at Elkhorn Pub or Elkhorn South, and then I don't know what the deal was with Elkhorn North, because Elkhorn North is right by where my old house was. I don't know if there's vitriol or not. I imagine with Gretna, because it may take them a while to get it going, like success-wise in sports, maybe Gretna is okay for right now. Now, if it swings, a couple, 2-3 years forward down the road, maybe there will be some animosity, or maybe there is now. I don't know.
There has to be 4,000 people in that new school, though, right? Like, that thing is massive.
Well, I think they have to start with the split grades, like Westview. Like Westview only could have freshmen and sophomores to start, and you talk about having to take your lumps. But I know their football team, East, huge numbers. I don't know if they can play, but they have big numbers. Like,
interesting.
I know.
It's interesting.
I don't know. I'll ask. You should ask.
I took
Mr.
2
Nielsen.
photos though as I drove by it, or as Ashley drove by it yesterday.
He called it a campus.
Yeah, because when you look at it, it looks like a high school campus or a college campus. Excuse me.
It's still working, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just thinking about the names at ESPN. I was like, wait, what?
We'll be back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back. Hopefully you're enjoying a cup of the official coffee and cream, courtesy of the Beanery. You know I am, as we come back from the 4th. I need it after a long weekend. Stayed up a little bit later than normal. Slept into, when I say sleep, when I sleep in now, it's like 9 o'clock.
So isn't that crazy? I think the latest I went without looking at my phone, and I haven't slept the whole night through since I don't know when, but I think the latest I got to was maybe Saturday. It was like 6:40. It's
hopefully PM. No, AM.
Yeah, I just can't get there.
You're also a dad. I feel like once you become a parent, you just don't sleep anymore.
Maybe. And I'm not obviously we talked about it, I'm not a napper, but I mean, that's so nobody's really getting going. And I've started to go like downstairs a lot more lately, but like if I'm upstairs watching television, like I can't really watch what I want to just because and I don't watch TV in my room typically.
Like you'd stay in bed longer if you did.
I probably. Yeah, that probably. But that's when like all the crazy shows started. And there were all these marathons for like Independence. And maybe that's what it was. Because I asked you off air, I was like, there's kind of some weird shows that we're binging during this marathon of Independence. Like, is Hunger Games really? I guess it's Independence, right? They're like fighting the Capitol. But that's not what I had in mind.
You don't know. It's not attribute that to the 4th.
It's not something as easily like thought about as like Independence Day, which I've
Right.
still never seen, which everybody loves. But
I don't know if I've ever seen that movie.
Shane, have you seen Independence Day?
Oh yeah, I saw it in the theater when it came out.
Oh, shocker!
But I haven't seen the second one. I hear the second one's
there's
not
two.
as good.
There's two.
Yeah.
So, and Rocky was part of the marathon. I'm like, what? Now how was he on? Like, is that the symbol of America? Like Rocky? Like, is that what we're on?
I'm for the Rocky movies.
It probably has to do
What?
with
I didn't see Roots 1 and 2.
It probably has to do with the fourth one.
What?
Where he's fighting the Russian.
Again, another reach. But
so
that's
was Miracle on too then? If they're just fighting Russians.
No, but so my buddy Heath, over in Council Bluffs, I always ask him, hey man, because he's told me about a couple good shows. And I was talking to him yesterday, and I was like, "Are you like?" Because I think sometimes his job is pretty stressful. I'm like, "Are you binging anything?" And so he started talking about all these shows on Apple, and I never watch Apple TV, and I don't know if there's like platform.
Like cross?
Yeah, crossover.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh fudge. The only time I use Apple is if I have to mirror something from the computer, like if we're not at a tournament for Caleb or something, and we cast it. So
Which is a great,
because you can mirror
great
it on the television. But outside of that, I don't know anything about Apple. But he turned me on to this show called Blackbird, and I am all in. The get this as the premise.
Okay.
So there's a serial killer who may or may not be high functioning on the spectrum, like mental,
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, but he's played the game, right? Very, he's like sometimes he's and I'm getting into it, so I'm giving you like the Cliff notes. But so he'll confess, but then it's kind of a dream. But then something else will come up of another murder, and he will or may not be implicated. So he's kind of bouncing around.
So he's arrested at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they come up with this idea. This young guy gets arrested. He's laundering money. He's in the business. So a young guy gets arrested, and he's about to get sentenced. I think he's getting like 20 years or something.
10-year prison sentence.
Yeah. He kind of looks like you without the facial hair, which, by the way, keep the facial hair growing. Gut it out.
You're the only person
power
that likes
through it, man, because wait till they see at the end of the rainbow.
Even Ashley's not a huge
But anyway, like they'll cut his sentence if he can get the guy to confess.
If he can elicit a confession from suspected killer Larry Hall.
Listen, Larry Hall will give you the creeps. Larry Hall,
Larry Hall.
What he's doing in this movie, and it's based on a true story.
Oh,
dude, I'm telling you.
Does he rock this facial hair in the movie too?
Hey, I'm telling you.
TV show.
The way that guy's acting, Blackbird, you got to check it out.
Yeah, this guy doesn't look like somebody I'd want to spend
2 seconds with.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, by the way, we have now got it on good authority. And I even got the ordinance. So thorough. You can do fireworks 10 p.m. from the 4th and from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And it's over now. Like you can't
shoot them off today.
No.
So what do all those firework tents do?
I don't know, but every year, and you're talking to somebody that gets like $30 worth of fireworks. Inevitably, there'll be the 4 packs of smoke bombs and 3 tanks left in the plastic white bag somewhere in the garage.
Do you ever shoot off the rockets that have the army man inside and then like
no, but I'm pretty mad. Oh yeah, it's this little girl making a beeline, and
that used to be me.
So, but listen, so when I was little, do you remember? I don't know when you first started with parachutes. Didn't you have the army guy in there?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what's in there now? A mini roll of toilet paper. There is no dude.
What?
It's just a little wooden thing.
No, it was an army man.
See, and you're not even that old, so this has to be fairly recent.
Mm-hmm.
When they start
cheaped
putting
out.
Mini toilet paper rolls,
they cheaped out. The end. Now does it like unravel as it's in the air too? So you
they're not even good parachutes. They're Kleenex for Pete's sake.
Oh, So they're not even like that film.
It's a total travesty. Like, what happened to the little dudes?
So maybe you're just buying cheap ones and you didn't know.
Parachutes just
we probably
got to the ground.
We probably got mad because it was a male figure, and so they're like, let's just go. Let's not make anybody. Woman? Nope, couldn't be Army people. So we just went with like toilet paper rolls
because everybody has to use TV.
Dude, it's not even fun. It doesn't open. It doesn't like sway back and forth. It looks like a dying quail.
And that's why I don't buy fireworks.
They used to be the best cheap firework ever.
So you bought $30 worth of fireworks.
$34
worth.
$34.31.
What did that get you? Because I see the signs, buy one, get 4 free.
Apparently there's an art to it. So go shopping with Micah because he knows like what I don't know if he's like
13-year-old
on Friend Connect or what.
Okay.
Dad, not a good value. Because when he said, he goes, so what's my limit? Like $25. And I was like, yeah, super broke. Like, let's do $25. But I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, man, what are you going to get for $25?
Apparently a lot.
We had two bags. But
do you guys get sparklers, things like that, or no?
Yeah, but he went to a sleepover.
With the fireworks?
Yeah, he took his bag and a backpack.
And the parents were cool with that?
Yeah, it's my buddy, Peyton. I actually went to school with his wife, Roxy, at Nebraska. And
did you run it by him first, or did he just show up?
Well, we're old kind of good neighbors. Like Peyton lives in the good neighborhood. I lived in the other neighborhood, but
okay.
But it's way off 156 and Fort over by Deer Creek. And so he doesn't get to see Aiden near as much as he used to, but like that is his dude. So yeah, Zoe with this, they have snaps that now change colors. They have industrial sized sparklers that take like 6 hours to light. Like no punk is getting this sparkler lit. Like you need like a flamethrower.
Like in Hackshaw Ridge that I watched. Dude, that guy was spraying the flamethrower.
That was your binge? That was your show?
That was the movie yesterday. That was my so-called patriotic movie that I was watching.
I am awful with war movies.
It was fantastic.
Shane,
it's based on a true story. And that's me. Well,
are you a documentary guy?
True story.
Oh yeah, then watch Blackbird.
Yeah, well, I love documentaries.
I'm going to try to finish it today.
Obviously, I haven't loved it enough to watch The Last Dance yet, but
which is again, we won't get into
sin.
That. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Chicago fan,
but,
right?
Yeah, Hacksaw Ridge was a good movie. He like saved 75 people over the ridge while his entire squad was back at the camp. He was just saving people that were hurt in battle. Army medic. Good movie. I watched Casino for the first time.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, so
didn't realize that was 3 hours.
Listen, so our fellow Cardinal fan Matt, he's on Shrinking. He told me about Shrinking too. It's basic, and Ted Lasso is the comp on IMDb when I looked it up. It's basically about a shrink who's going through like a midlife crisis. So he just starts telling his patients the truth, and they like get better.
I wonder if Matt tagged me in another
I don't know.
Another Adam Wainwright thing.
Probably.
We'll be back.
Sports.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. Happy to have you back this week. Hopefully you had a fun, safe, and fantastic holiday weekend. Did you get Monday off? Did you not? Did you just take it off? Because the 4th fell weirdly on a Tuesday, and if you worked Monday and then were off Tuesday, it's kind of like a weird break in the week. I would assume most people took it off, but my brother ended up working on the 3rd, so he didn't have the long extended weekend like many were blessed with. But we're happy that you're joining us now, whether it's on Twitter, on YouTube. That's where we're live via video. You can catch us there, Hurrdat Sports and Hail Varsity Radio YouTube pages. We are also on the airwaves. 590 ESPN Omaha will be on KFOR in Lincoln starting at 9 o'clock. Am I missing anything?
No, but apparently we both are. Because wait, you've seen Independence Day?
No.
Okay, so my buddy, and he says he's being serious. So I'm going to take him at his word. Shane, do you remember Independence Day having some of the greatest presidential speeches in movie history?
Yes.
Oh. I asked him, I was like, anecdote, or are you being serious? He goes, no, I really believe that. I think we're missing out on Independence Day.
You are.
But
for lots of reasons.
Thank you, Shane.
But the only real thing that I trust his opinion in, other than cheap groceries, is comics. So I don't know about his
You don't know about his films?
No, and your music is fine. Like you had some good recommendations, but I don't know about your movie taste.
Mine?
Yeah.
Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, Bill
Vivica
Pullman.
Fox.
Well, who?
I think it's Vivica Fox. Is that
Vivica? Oh, Vivica
Fox. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
she looks great in it.
Yeah, maybe back then. When was that movie?
Like 96, maybe.
Nice work. 1996.
I can't. She didn't age great, but she used to.
Vivica?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to be on my fave 10. Nah, probably fave 20.
Her short haircut was
not the greatest presidential speeches in movie history.
The guy that plays the president in that movie probably did one of the best jobs as a president.
He is so serious.
I'm serious.
Shane, how long's the movie?
I'd say it's probably about 2.
What difference does it make? You sat through 3 hours at Casino.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
224 maybe.
224.
Who says that?
It's an hour and 45 minutes, 145 minutes.
So that's
2 hours and 25 minutes.
Yep.
That's insane.
What else you want to know about it?
Hey, what was the budget for the film? Or what did the box office rake in?
Who says that?
In 96, what did the box office rake in? I'll give you between 50
Are we
million.
going to act like he just didn't say about 224 minutes?
Yeah, he nailed it.
I'd say it was probably about 140 million.
Nope, 817.4 mil.
Oh, Lord. And they didn't have special effects, so they had to spend a little.
Good cinematography.
Which, by the way, Shane, I'm with you on that Flash. The CGI, total trash.
Yeah.
Total trash.
Yeah, that was a bomb.
That Flash or The Flash?
The Flash. The movie.
I heard that got some bad reviews.
Cool characters, a lot of good concepts. Messy, like Marvin. Messy, like the Dodgers against the Pirates. Messy. Do you realize now this was as of yesterday, so you got to look this up. I don't think anybody in Major League Baseball has a streak of winning or losing greater than 4. So I don't
now.
I don't think anybody's lost more than 4 in a row. I don't think anybody's won more than 4 in a row. Check that real quick.
Right now is
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I know teams have obviously won more than 4 this year.
Yeah. I mean, the Braves just came off a 9-day
And the
nine-game
Reds,
bender.
and then
I think the Reds
Rays
have.
off the
I
rip.
think the Reds are back to like 3 in a row. Here,
Let's see here. I'm looking it up right now. I got it.
slow motion is better than no motion. Andrew.
5-5, 4-6,
Andrew.
7-3 win streaks. I see one. The Mariners have a 4-win streak right now,
Yeah, I don't think anything's greater than 4.
and the Giants have a 4-game losing streak.
Is a number bigger than 4?
Mm-mm.
See,
Nice work.
that's balance.
And halfway through the year, it makes sense.
I don't know.
We're getting to
Sometimes
that
you'll
point.
see a team or two like on a losing skid. I mean, but even the Athletics aren't streaking anymore one way or the other.
Can you tell me the only team in the Central that has a positive run differential?
AL Central?
NL.
The only team in the NL with a I'll gather it's not the team in first place. Otherwise, it would be easy for me to say that.
Mm-hmm. You'd be correct. It's not the Reds.
I'm going to go with the Pirates.
It's the Cubs.
Really?
They are
When they win, they
in
win.
4th. Yeah, they're plus 23 in the column, and they are 39-45 on the year. Plus 23. Do you know how many teams have positive run differentials?
In the Central?
Well, only one in the Central, but just in the NL.
Let's go. So that would be 15 teams, right? Or 16?
15.
Let's go positive run differentials in the NL. I will say 7.
7 is correct.
Let's go.
7 is right.
Hey, put that 224 minutes in your pipe and,
And
smoke it. Shano.
And the West makes up 4 of the 7.
Yeah, the West is tough.
The Dodgers are plus 59.
The West is tough.
They have the best in the West.
Well,
Imagine being the Braves. They're at plus 140.
The Braves are borderline ridiculous. You have to just hope they get bored. Now, I missed on my AL Cy Young because apparently Castillo didn't get the memo.
Nope.
I'm going to miss on them. And I obviously have the Mariners doing what they're doing because I thought he would be that guy, right?
Right.
I'm going
They're
to
still in good shape. They're 500.
I'm going to miss on that. I'm going to probably get the NL Rookie of the Year, but I'm most certainly going to nail the NL MVP, which was Acuna
Nolan
Jr.
Arenado.
He is ridiculous.
Acuna.
Oh,
I mean, both offensively and defensively.
I mean, it's silly.
Yeah. He's
There-
on my fantasy team.
There is really, really high-end individual talent. Can you believe I'm 2 years late, literally literally 2 years late on Shohei Ohtani. I was not a believer. I just didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, you just can't keep this up. I said that in the middle of like 2 years ago last year. I was like,
when he was going nuts.
I was like, that's pretty good.
It's cool to see.
I give it to the end of the year.
Yeah, he's the real deal.
Yeah, dude's pretty good. I can't wait to see what his contract is.
Well, it can't be any less than. I think I'm shooting high, but 500.
I mean, he's gonna have to dwarf Harper.
Oh yeah. Well, he's 10 times better than Harper right now. Where did Harper's bat go?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he came back too soon. As a matter of fact, one of the six-pack questions was, and this was weeks ago, would I bring Harper back during that series?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? Let him sit till the break. Yeah, he's not. He
just doesn't look right.
A shell.
He's not
and
elevating the ball.
With all the money that the NBA is doling out, what would Shohei Ohtani command in the NBA?
Oh man!
If the Timberwolves just maxed Anthony Edwards at $260 million.
And how old is Edwards now?
He is just finishing up his rookie contract. They locked him up, maxed him.
So what is he? 22?
What's Luke? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Luka got maxed.
Van Vliet over the weekend got 3 years, $130 million from the Rockets.
Shohei Ohtani would make $700-800 million in the NBA. Yeah. And it's all guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what it is? It's and I don't get mad at me as a Bears fan. But it's the main reason I don't like Walter Payton. Just aesthetically, he doesn't fit my running. He doesn't fit my eye.
You've said that before.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of an ugly runner. I hate Shohei Ohtani's. It's not necessarily his swing. I hate how he gets there.
I'm with you.
I just don't like
it. It doesn't look very natural.
Just doesn't,
and it doesn't look like the ball's going to go 450.
It looks like if he doesn't guess right, he's missing, but he doesn't. Like he's got it. Obviously, most hitters do. He's got it down to a science.
Yeah.
So it's like
it doesn't look pretty. I'm with you. And he doesn't look like he's trying.
Now coming through the zone.
When Ellie De La Cruz swings, it looks like he's swinging out of his shoes. When Ohtani swings, it doesn't even look like he's trying.
Here's the thing about De La Cruz, and it's way early. That's going to be very hard on his body. He's going to have to chill. Right? I just keep thinking Tiger
this
Woods,
day and age, too, the young guys just want to smack it as far as they can. And if he ever participated in the Derby, he'd get hurt.
I don't know, but people said that they would fall off, and it's still, we're not even to the break yet, but
close to it though.
They're back on another 3-game heater. I don't know how their pitching holds up.
It's a bunch of no-name guys.
It's a bunch of no-names. Quietly, the Astros have won like 3 in a row, and they don't even seem good. Mm-hmm. You see the Rangers run them down, and then they lose 12-11 the other day?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. I also saw the Marlins just absolutely destroy the Cardinals.
Yeah, playing softball.
15-2 was last night's score.
Marlins got a sneaky good record.
Also a team that doesn't have a lot of big names. Brian Christopherson up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Here is Husker 24/7 senior writer Brian Christopherson.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of a circus act.
Brian Christopherson.
Well, I mean, that's pretty interesting.
Brian Christopherson.
I kind of enjoy that.
Here is Brian Christopherson.
Top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency, live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. We'll change gears after the opening segment of, I don't know, get to know you.
It was basically how we spent the fourth and why I'm late to the party of the best player in baseball.
Get to know your weekend. But we'll touch base with Brian Christopherson now, senior writer for Husker 24/7 at Husker 24/7 BC on Twitter. BC, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good, B. But my man AR over here said he went 7 hours on Saturday without touching his phone.
Good.
Given how the month of June went, could Brian Christopherson spend the holiday going 7 hours without looking at his phone?
Probably not, which is pretty sad. That's impressive. That's a goal I should set and everyone should set.
Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
Now I can go that long without talking to people, but I would be spending time. Yeah, TikTok recipes. I'd be doing something on my phone.
Yeah. Sat on the table.
Yeah. I I find that I am looking at my phone even without realizing it a lot, which is not a good place to be. And I think that's how a lot of people are. I'll be sitting on my couch watching something else, but then you bring up your, you flash it in front of you and suddenly you're scrolling Twitter or whatever. And it does become an addiction. And I don't think it's a good thing. You can actually tie this right back to what coaches are trying to fight through, I think, in all levels. I know, like Fred Hoiberg, for instance, when they're going on this trip out of country, one of the things they like about it is the guys can't access their phone as easily. Like they can't get stuff on there. And so you got to spend time talking to your teammate and getting to know your teammate and having face-to-face, looking someone in the eye conversations. And it's really good for those guys. And I know it seems like Rule stresses some of the same sort of stuff when you talk about eating together and, hey, this time's to get to know the person in front of you. Let's leave everything else to the side. So it's not even really a funny side topic anymore, how addicted and reliant we all are on that stuff.
You see, how'd you keep up with the month of June? I mean, that thing was a whirlwind. Quality, quantity, a little bit of both. Where have you kind of rested now that you had a little bit of time to catch your breath on the whirlwind commitments in June? I mean, the Big Ten was busy as a conference.
Yeah, it was a good recruiting month for a lot of people throughout the league. But, I think we just saw, okay, this is going to be how it is around here with this coaching staff. And they said going in, camp season was not going to be light in any ways. There was no vacation time during this part. It was very much about giving guys, even who weren't on the radar, an opportunity in front of them to show, yeah, you're capable of a scholarship. And they honored some of those. And we saw some of those guys even commit pretty quickly. So I guess that was interesting to me, is just it was much more than talk. It was definitely walking the walk as far as these camp sessions are going to mean something. If you're a kid who comes here, there's a chance to get in front of the coaches. And even if you're not a top athlete, we want to coach you up and have it be an experience you remember. And you get feedback across the community and from people who went to that camp say, yeah, that's worth your time. And then hopefully you build off that in the years to come. But obviously from a commitment standpoint, it was nuts. I mean, I think I said this last week when I came back from my vacation, is when I left, in mid-June, they had 9 commitments in the class, and now it's 23, I think is the number. It's just amazing the amount of just how it grew. And also I think Daniel Kalen was a story in June. I think the way that he was down here all the time with recruits, one of the best peer recruiting efforts I've seen from a guy who just jumped in the boat a month prior, and the way guys connected to him. And I also think he helped us move the story forward from the Dylan Raiola story. And that's not a knock on Dylan Raiola. He picked where he picked, and that's that. But I think it got people like, I like this Kalen kid, and they're starting talking about him and how he relates to other guys. So I think that was a big thing in June.
BC, do you think there ever could be too much attention given to one geographical area? Take Nebraska's presence in Texas, for example. Like, are they sharing their time well in other states? And don't you want people to say, like, because, when you hear recruits say in Texas, or at least last week we heard coaches in Texas, they're starting to worry about any time a recruit brings up Nebraska. Like, don't you want people across the country saying we worry about Nebraska, not just Texas?
Well, sure you do, but I think that can still happen to a degree. There's only so many places where you can feel like this is basically home turf, though. I mean, it's always going to be a little bit where you're a little bit of the outsider having to fight uphill. That's just the way it is. I mean, when you go into, the Northeast, Nebraska, this Husker staff has connections up there, obviously. Matt Rule's from there. EJ Barthel does a nice job recruiting up there and identifying talent. And they've got a lot of links up there, but I still consider them to be sort of outsiders from Nebraska's location on the map when they try to recruit a prospect there. You got to work hard to get those. Texas is such a rarity in that I don't think I've seen anything quite like it with the guy. When you think about what Rule did at Baylor, he was only, he's there a few years, And to build the trust and the networking he did in that amount of time, and the fact that it still carries over, even though he went to the NFL a few years, and it doesn't seem like those relationships skipped a beat. And so I look at it as just sort of a bonus that they have this Texas area, parts of Texas at least, that are almost like, it feels like regional recruiting ground. Like they can look at it. Yes, you got to get on a plane to get there, but it feels like this is Nebraska and bordering states type recruiting territory for this staff. Like when he goes and speaks to the Texas Coaches Association or whatever he's doing in a couple of weeks, it's not like there's going to be a lot of introductions necessary there to him and certain coaches in the room. He's going to feel like he's, doing something at the embassy down the street. That's just the way he's built that up. So that's a good question, Andrew. But I think people got to look at it differently and just say, Texas, this is unique that they actually have this other state where it is that it feels like it's just home ground, and you're not going to find that very often.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think of, and you have to kind of think BC, maybe give it a year or two in the Northeast could be a thing. I know he's got Evan Taylor from North Carolina, and I don't consider that obviously Northeast, but that's as eastern as he went. Outside of, I think Cook is Maryland, obviously, but he could probably come back to that part of the country. But given Nebraska's recruiting history, BC last, I don't know, let's go 30 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we could pick a state if Nebraska's going to make some hay. And it's the usual suspects, right? Florida, Texas, California. Don't you think Nebraska fans are most comfortable with Texas?
Yes.
Or am I straight? I'm kind of, your answer to that kind of just made me think. I'm like, now there's been some states they've made some hay for a while over time, and those three come up. Are we the most comfortable with Texas?
Yeah, I think folks are. You would often hear during the leanest of Nebraska years, well, one of the storylines is they stopped recruiting Texas. Yeah. I think that's a little bit of a lazy narrative. I do think that there were staffs that still got into Texas, okay, not to this amount, but they were still recruiting Texas, and I don't believe that's why this thing fell off the ledge. I think it's a lot of the lack of details closer to home, just in your own operation day to day. That's the reason for that. However, you could cast the fact that they didn't quite recruit Texas maybe to the level they have some years as part of it. But I do think it gives people just a warm feeling, like fans around here, like, no, they are serious about high school football there the way people are serious about football here. And I think that gives them comfort.
Yeah, because I think that's the big
because
reason.
over time it seems like we've soured on California, and I get it, maybe the whole Calabrasca thing and guys going back home, and I think similar with Florida, even though we've gotten some big guns from there. Yeah. I think with so many guys going back home, I just think recency bias has us a little leery of Florida and California.
I think your
instinct at first blush.
Yeah, I think your instincts on that are right, and I'm going to write about this actually at some point this week. If you go back and look at Florida, under in the Frost era, they had success getting guys out of there, obviously, but people came and left. They didn't get a lot of anything from those recruits, and so that's why I think people are still a little skittish about Florida. I think they got to open their minds and give the new staff a new shot there and see especially how some of those Miami relationships carry over. Phil Simpson has great respect there. Evan Cooper's from there. So it might be a different story in Florida, but I do sense, because of, you talk about recency bias, the last 5 to 6 years have made probably Husker fans a little like, I don't know, is Florida going to work out? It hasn't in the past. And California, I think, in recruiting in general, has sort of, it's changed since I've been in the business, where right when I started, it was like, yeah, you got to get to California somewhat. And then there was this period where it felt like a lot of coaches across the country were a little lukewarm on it. But now that Tony White is, in the fold here, he's got a lot of relationships, and I do think you're going to see Nebraska open that up. And I'd like to see him get a guy or two out of Hawaii as well. Like, there's just some good players there, and I think that's where you'd hope. Like, Ryla has some connections, and they're after a big 4-star lineman that might decide in a couple of weeks there. A victory like that, I think, would be huge too, to get your foot in the door.
BC, speaking of Florida, Ja'Cory Barney, the most recent Nebraska commit, a big one too, a flip when everybody thought he was Miami through and through, and then all of a sudden he ends up at Nebraska. Just how good of a job has Garrett McGuire done with this recruiting process, with this receiving core, and building something special, and also solidifying his name into conversation of, hey, I belong here? Because I remember at the beginning of this whole thing, it was, Garrett McGuire's pretty young.
Yeah. And that was going to be a story they were going to have to fight through. And I think it's probably easy for him to work through that, because once he gets in the room, and I mean, even if any media who had access to the practices, even for a little bit this spring, even if it was that early portion that some of us got, you're like, man, this guy, he's just so detailed out there. He knows his stuff and inside and out. And you could tell the receivers had a lot of respect for him. So, I think once a recruit or any football player says, this guy knows stuff that can help me, I believe that. That's all that matters. Then you don't care what age he is or where he came from. It's just like, this guy can help me, and that's going to be good enough for me. And I think you saw some tenaciousness on the Ja'Cory Barney recruitment, because, as you said, that was one a few weeks ago. I felt pretty good about Nebraska. And then after he went to Miami on a visit, you're sort of like, that's home. He was speaking so glowingly of it. Nobody knew exactly where he stood, but it sure felt tilted that way. And I thought that was one of the best recruiting wins of the last month. And the fact that it was Nebraska going head to head with the big boy in a fight where people thought they don't have the inside track, and they just kept punching and punching. And obviously Garrett McGuire's, just the way he would not give up on it, I think was useful. And Evan Cooper too. I mean, Evan Cooper's got his fingertips over a lot of stuff over there. He's so valuable. And that was one of his guys as well. So you always got to give him credit.
I think that it pretty popular consensus, right? That Coop is Coach Rule's right-hand man, like the right-hand man.
I mean, it seems like that to me. And I don't mean that to slight anybody else, but just when you
I mean everything.
Just across the board.
I mean,
I think that's his go-to. Every coach has their guy on that on a staff. It seems like Rule is Coop's guy.
I don't want to dwell on this, but I mean, sometimes like just when they put out the salaries, like this guy's making this much. I mean, Evan Cooper is the defensive backs coach. I mean, he's well compensated here, and then when you go to a camp, you see him, he is side by side with Rule, and just, I think the other coaches, the way they trust his evals, and they believe he really has a gift for it. And I wrote about it last week. James Blanchard is the head recruiting guy at Texas Tech now for Joey McGuire. They're tearing it up, recruiting much the same way Nebraska is. And in this story on this podcast he did last week, Blanchard talks about sort of the things he learned from Rule and Cooper specifically, and just the way he spoke of them, and the reverence for the job they do, and how they look for traits in athletes, and a projectable recruit, a guy who maybe some people are looking for the reasons why he can't play at the college level. They're looking for, no, these are the 2 or 3 reasons why he can, and we're going to accentuate those when he gets here, and he's going to succeed. I think you see a lot of that in Evan Cooper's evaluations.
I speak to that firsthand. BC, legitimately firsthand. So with SC and UCLA coming, my guy Thomas asked me, do you think that's the next state that naturally comes into the fray in the recruiting landscape? Or do you think he stays more regional with some of the influence he wants to have in the Kansas City, in the state of Missouri? Which state do you kind of see becoming next? Is it someplace in the Northeast after a year that I alluded to earlier? Or is it natural with White, NSC, and UCLA that it could be Cali?
Cali's in the running. I mean, I think it's going to be Nebraska, Texas, always in your 1-2 spots, maybe even Texas. Texas right now, there's 7 commits from there, 6 from Nebraska. I think Florida could be tough to beat as like that third state just because of some of those Southern Florida connections. But I think California definitely could rise up and be like right in that category. I guess it's right after Nebraska and Texas. I think you're right on that, because I do think Tony White was such an exceptional recruiter, and people have been sort of wired in on just like his scheme and all that stuff. But just go back and look at the time he spent coaching out there. And I mean, he was regarded as one of the best recruiters in that region for years. And so, those connections didn't go away. He's really tied into some of the top programs in the country. He's tied into programs where there might be a player who's like second team on the depth chart at one of those powerhouse programs in California right now, but he knows about them, and Nebraska is going to have a shot at a guy who's maybe under the radar, but is going to be a really good recruit. I think that's why that's a state that could rise up. And I think the Kansas City area too is another spot you hope that the staff can get into more. And I think Rob Dvorak and guys like Keith Williams are doing a good job trying to make that a reality. And
it seems like Keith does a lot of the little behind the scenes, dirty recruiting work. You know what I mean? Like, he kind of gets overlooked a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, just probably because he's not a full-time assistant, but he's one of those guys who, what's my job? I do my job. And I think there's a lot of guys like that over there. Rule and the staff went to speak at the convention in Kansas City and get to know people there. And I think they're very serious and intentional about making that region something that pops again. Can Nebraska get into St. Louis at least a little bit? That's still it's been like the Bermuda Triangle for the Huskers. I mean, that's one where we'll see. But if they can unlock that one and get like even just a class who's kind of special out of St. Louis, and he starts to take off here, that could be a big deal too.
I'll give my people a call.
Dude, it's kind of a tight-knit football community too. A lot of those coaches, Carl Reed, a lot of these guys over at
yep.
They seem to kind of all help, they cross promote for the region. So you're right. Maybe there is a Pied Piper or two in that area.
Yeah. It's just an interesting staff. We're talking about all these spots. I mean, last cycle, Nashville, Tennessee popped up. I mean, they got some of the guys people won't recognize as being from there, but they are, like Sincere Safula. I don't say his last name correctly. You know what I'm talking about. Sincere, he's from the Nashville area. Jacob Hood was from the Nashville area. Demetrius Bell. And I just bring those guys up as like that's where the staff's really intriguing. Like, suddenly you think you got like them pegged for this spot and that spot, and then you realize like, oh, they've gotten 2 guys out of here recently. They have some connections there. So they really are taking advantage of all the links they have.
BC, I guess this last one for me, you just finished up your indispensable list. It all ended with QB1 as number 1. Sims has the physical traits to be successful, but right now it seems like a whole bunch of belief that he'll be successful in every other category away from the physical side. Does it not?
Yeah. I mean, this staff had a lot of research on him before they brought him in. Rule had watched him play all the time at Georgia Tech. He got as good insight as you can from Jeff Collins, who's a friend, I think, in the coaching game to him. And back in December, of course, there was those quotes at early signing day where you could just tell, like, there was just full belief, like, this guy has the stuff. We just got to bring it out of him. And the reason you think you can is what, as Marcus Satterfield has said in multiple interviews, he's just a really smart, like, football junkie guy. So when you have one of those guys who just wants to find every way to get better, and it seems like Jeff Sims is that way from what we hear, as was Casey Thompson, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
You've you got a fighting chance. I thought, like, even though it was limited time in the spring game, for his one audition in front of the fan base, thought he played pretty well. Like, I thought he handled that moment well, and I thought he handled the interviews in a manner that makes you think like he can be that guy who steps forward to the mic every week, and stuff, and doesn't get overly worked up about it, and can communicate what he needs to and not say what he shouldn't say too, which is a big part of that job. So I think there's a lot of tools that are in the kit. It's just a matter if he can reach for him here and get him in his hand.
BC, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much. We'll talk again next week.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, B.
Brian Christopherson, senior writer for Husker 24/7 at Husker 24/7 BC on Twitter. Gosh, we'll talk to Andy Kendeigh up next. We'll get a little more into recruiting. I want to ask him, did you watch well, I guess I did. We did talk about this a little bit when Matt Waldron got called up last week, West Side kid, for the Padres, and then he got sent back down, and then he got called back up yesterday. And, I almost want to know, you played at the highest level, so you kind of get it. Like being on a taxi squad.
It's hard. It's hard.
Like,
as a guy
when
that
you're getting
was always,
led on, and
as
then
a guy
not.
that always had to fight for roster spots, it does something to you. You have to be prepared to be suitcase to suitcase. And
is it harder in baseball than
no?
anything?
I think it's actually easier because you're not really changing multiple teams. It's the same organization, so I think you're okay with that. I think
interesting.
That's just me.
Yeah, because I was talking to my buddy yesterday, and I'm like, man, what's he thinking about? Because he's like intertwined with him. His girlfriend's sister dates him, and I'm like, he's like, oh man, it sucks.
It's tough. I get it.
I wonder if Kendeigh can answer it. We'll be back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back, Andy Kendeigh on the phone. We will get to him right now as he joins Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. AK, good morning.
Morning, boys. Happy 5th of July.
AK 4 Channel 7.
For those that celebrate.
Hey, so you were close to my old neighborhood. How's the old fireworks display in Northwest Omaha?
It's it's impressive. Seems like it gets bigger every year. Now, last night I actually worked, so I got to drive through. Yeah,
because you don't work any other day.
Hey, go figure. It's like I actually had to work.
Yeah, but I did get to drive through the aftermath, which is it's quite the cleanup job that we have to do out here.
Yeah, see, I can't like that's my one thing. Like, just pick up after yourself.
Oh yeah. There was debris but props to the neighbors. They were out there and drenched because a lot of the fireworks had to go through the rain last night, so that was interesting. But yeah, it's always good. It's always an interesting holiday. It's awesome, and I always think that it's the top of the hill, right? Now we're going downhill towards football, and before when people say, "God, you're running football stuff in June and July," there's no guilt. There's no guilt. It's like 8 weeks for the opener. We can run all the football you want all the time.
Hey, so real quick before we get to work, did they refill the lake yet?
No, they have not. It's really weird out there.
That has got to be so ugly.
I tell you, and half of the trail that we're talking about Standing Bear, and half the trail is closed. So you're not even because they have bulldozers and doing whatever they're doing to the lake out there. But when you get to that dam, the reservoir area, which is kind of parallel to 132nd, it is spooky. It's like a movie. Like you've seen the bottom of the lake, and there's foliage. It's all grown over now. It's like God, they're going to put water back in there, but it's I guess it's going to be like a year in the making. It's to make new boat landings and docks and whatever. So, but yeah, it's kind of a struggle right now. I actually walked the lake yesterday, and you have to go and then turn around, and these are major problems in my life.
The tough task.
I was talking with my buddy. I was talking with my buddy yesterday, and he was talking about first world problems. He just made me laugh. I was like, "That's a total first world problem." Farmers are worried about crops, and we're worried about whether we have to repeat our walking pattern.
That's right. Wait, I already saw this tree. I don't want to see it.
Hey, AK, I was asking DB before we went to break about Matt Waldron and being on the taxi squad. What sport do you think is the hardest on a person when you're on the taxi squad?
Oof, that's a good question.
NBA 10 days would suck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we've seen guys get long-term deals off of those things, though.
Yeah, that's a good question. Football, when you're on the taxi squad in football, you're still in the mix, right? You're in the locker room. You can be elevated at any time.
Yep.
For the most part, I would say baseball's the toughest because there's actual travel involved, don't you think? And with hoops too. I mean, hoops there's travel too, but with hoops, you probably have a more likelihood of playing where you never know. You may get brought up in baseball and just sit the bench and collect your per diem and get sent down.
At least in baseball, you stay in the same organization. Basketball, it's like they don't have an immediate feeder, right? So
for the most part, yeah. At least when you're playing for the Storm Chasers, you get called up. You're going to Kansas City,
right?
Yeah, I get that. But it's cool to see Matt Waldron. Think about this though. That West Side team, they had some players.
Yeah.
Waldron and Jake Myers. So there's some guys on that team that can really play. And West Side as a whole, with Darren Ruff being in the majors, that's 3 current major leaguers. It's pretty impressive.
Believe me, per usual, I'm rocking some variation of West Side gear this morning, AK. So
and Jackson Rose is close to the bigs, right?
Yeah.
And he was another guy on that Waldron Myers team. So, I mean, that's saying something. That was quite the club back in the day.
AK, so as we're within 8 weeks. Do you remember a June like this for you, work-wise, recruiting?
No.
Just across the board, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, with the football element has really added an additional layer.
Remember when Nebraska couldn't get guys to say yes unless there was a game in season?
Right. And God forbid they played 11 and they couldn't even get guys to actually come visit. We'd have to have a 2:30 or a night game.
I remember Frost saying something about like the flights and stuff in game days, and you had to be patient and kind of like this calendar has, and that was just one coach ago. The calendar has moved way up,
and guys committing to the point, and now I think everybody is learned enough about the recruiting process. Like the average fan has learned that you may have an offer, but an offer is a committable offer. Is there really a spot when you say you get an offer from school X? Does that mean if you say yes to school X? I remember, I can't remember the guy's name, but somebody committed maybe 2 years ago to Nebraska, and everybody's like, huh? Like what? Well, hold on this guy, because this guy really is never going to wind up in Lincoln, because that offer really wasn't an offer. It's like, well, wait. Like, so what does that mean if you get an offer, right? It's one of those deals where it is. I would think, never having going through it myself in the modern age, I would think it's pretty. I think the waters are pretty tricky to navigate. So I don't envy that.
Yeah, Friday nights for you guys, and some Thursdays, you'll be saying things like Nebraska commit, Notre Dame commit, like such insert Power 5 school commit. Like this is going to be a crazy year for you guys in terms of highlighting guys around the metro because there'll be so many.
Yeah, and I think we might have talked about this a couple times ago, our discussions ago. Like, is this the best crop of kids in one single?
Well, it's certainly the deepest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, deepest. Or and is it the most talented, or is it because that maybe people are finally waking up that the kids can play here in Nebraska? I mean, that's the other element now that the world has shrunk with social media and whatnot. That people actually come out to make a hey, they're going to make a visit to Ainsworth or whatever just to go see guys that normally you just never would even fathom having coaches come out this way. And now it's like, oh yeah, kids could play in Nebraska. And you're right, TV. We kind of looked over the schedule, and then you're trying to balance the schedule with the Nebraska schedule and the travel, and Thursday night's becoming a major night with the high school football.
Yeah, you got Pitt commits, you got Iowa commits,
yeah.
you got. I mean,
it's going to be something else. And I mean, just think about that first Nebraska game is on a Thursday. That Wednesday, they have that volleyball thing in Lincoln in the Memorial Stadium on the 30th. And, oh, by the way, that Friday, there's a couple biggies on the high school calendar. So,
the cool thing about this season, you guys, AK, I'm telling you, the coaches, the staffs that can manage staying in the moment, and this is true 90% of the time, but it's escalated now with guys' futures already kind of set and some guys playing for potential scholarships. The coaches that can manage high school being the most important thing that night or that day or that preparation for the week, those are the guys that are going to win. Because it's really easy to get distracted.
Mm-hmm. Well, think about this. Here's Creighton Prep's first 5 weeks of the season. At Bellevue West, at Westside, home against Millard North, home against Gretna, at Millard West.
Yeah,
That's a good start for Creighton Prep.
Fudge.
I mean, are you kidding me?
5-0.
Here's Bellevue West schedule. Home against Creighton Prep, home against Omaha North, at Omaha Burke, home against Westside, at Kearney.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's a hello, welcome to the season. So I tell you, I agree, DB. The coaches that can stay week to week, preach the 1-0 mentality, which we're going to hear a lot of, I think, this fall, whether it be at the high school level or at the college level. I think those are the teams that are going to be playing deep into November.
As DB likes to say, stay in the moment.
For sure.
Stay in the moment.
For sure.
Moment.
We're not in college yet.
Yeah, fellas, I'm actually working again today. That's 2 in a row.
Oh, wow.
Hey, go ahead, A-Train. Go get them.
So did you get time and a half yesterday? Or?
All right, buddy.
We appreciate it, man.
Thanks, AK.
Thanks, fellas.
We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll get back into some of this recruiting talk, conversation about discipline, maybe.
It's something.
I had a good conversation with my mom over the week. We stayed up till 2 a.m. talking about discipline.
Nice.
We'll be back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Still a good chunk of the show remaining. We'll play Gone in 60 Seconds at 9:30. DB got another good prompt for you. We'll talk to Jesse Rogers, spelled his last name correctly, Rogers, at 9:45. A little Major League Baseball with him. You want to comment on that? No D, nothing.
I thought about it, but you know, when it's DB, you always want to give him a D.
Yep.
I mean, you can do it your way, Al.
Yep.
You can have whatever you like.
I'm on the A team.
Yeah. No. Just Rogers. It's a G, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
No, I get it.
It's not Rogers.
I've never misspelled your name.
I know, you're killer.
But
you know how many people have put my name wrong in their phone, like when I would.
Well, it's
first
easy
text
in
them?
mine because it's just AR-15.
Mm-hmm. How many nicknames over names do you have in your phone?
So a lot. So it comes back to haunt me though, because sometimes I forget
what I call
who you
people. Nickname.
Yeah. And
who are you again?
A lot of people, and I've changed a few. Like I knew a couple of an easy one. So I know multiple DJs. One I talk to the most.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just he's just DJ Rezak. I changed DJ Dan Jackson, Coach Dan Jackson, to D-Jack. And the other DJ
is the Dugout.
Is his I used his real name, which was Derek. So like I have had to switch a few, but some people I forget. Like I can't remember what I call them. So I have to kind of scroll.
Funny,
no, it's kind of dumb. I don't know if I'm getting old or I just can't remember. You know,
I don't know. You can really dig deep into your.
No, I have a super good memory, but like just my contacts are, they're weird. OU Tyler, JBKC. I mean, AT is Aaron Taylor, but I have 3 Aaron Taylors. You know, it's just Ready, Willing, and Abler. Like this guy, Alex Abler. But I call him Ready, Willing. You remember You remember A-Train, Shane?
Absolutely.
You're a weird man.
You know what I mean? So
Nope.
I'm getting better at it, though. You were talking about discipline and recruiting.
Yeah. So I was sitting at the kitchen table with my mom on Sunday night after the fireworks. Yep, we were still up.
It's funny. You always call Barry, but you call your mom.
He would say the same thing. Yeah, okay. You can just call me by my first name.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
No, I call my dad.
When he's but when you're talking about to us,
because it's WWBD. I said we should do we should have a prompt on the show someday. Like we should both come up with something, and then have him. We'll call him and we'll ask him
what he would
do in that scenario. Because I think that would be something that we would find obvious, but to everybody else, it's like, huh, okay.
I know where you get
do Do you ever use any other names like Pops or anything like that?
No, because there's a strip club in St. Louis called Pops. So
as I got
I try to
older,
avoid that one.
as I got older, as I know my mom's probably listening, but I started calling my dad Pops like later on, probably in my middle 30s. I would say Pops.
Yeah, I've said Dad my whole life, so I stuck with that. Mom is Mama.
Yeah, I just say Mom. Mama, really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, all right. So you guys are shooting the breeze.
Shooting the breeze.
Mom
Stayed up till about 2 a.m.
Mom for all intents and purposes.
Yep, we
just
can call
Mom.
it Mom, just so everyone knows that Mama and Mom are
the
same person.
Well, in some households, one's the grandma and one's the mom.
Okay. Yeah.
Mommy.
Mommy.
And mama.
Mommy. It's like that Family Feud. Mommy.
I had a funny discussion about Family Feud last night. That's like 1 out of every 5 of my TikToks now.
I just love the bloopers. The
Dude,
bloopers
that's
are so funny.
that's my jam. Anyway,
so we talked about everything from family to the show. We talked about the show a lot with her, and then just society today. Like, you know how a lot of people. Well, let's just say for one, we are all guided by this thing.
Yeah,
everybody.
Phone. Just what we were talking about with BC.
Yep, it's not just the young generation. It's everybody is guided by this thing. Even my grandma has an iPhone. Now she doesn't know how to use it in its full capacity, but everybody.
What's up, Trev? Good morning.
Everybody is ran by technology. And so we chatted about high school stories then and parenting that came along with some of those stories because I wasn't the perfect child in high school. Like I was guided well because of my discipline and my upbringing, but you know, I acted out too in the same light as did most teenagers.
Makes me nauseous.
Yeah, that's discipline too. The hot dog eating contest. But that's really what we landed on for a good while was discipline because it's an unpopular term nowadays. Like how you discipline your child. Like a lot of people are like saying like, you can't lay a finger on them. And then some are like, no, like, you know, and that's what we got into again, like discipline through sports, because I feel like that's how a lot of people really learn. Like, yeah, you learn at home, right from wrong. But when it comes to like physical discipline, you get that on the field and you get that from your coaching staff. And, you know, I was fascinated when she was talking with me too, because she's not a huge sports fan, but she loves Matt Rule. And I don't know if that's because she listens to our show every day and we talk about him in a good light. So in turn, maybe people take what we say to the water cooler and, you know, talk about it with their people for 5 or so minutes. But she really likes how we lay everything out with him. And she hears it too. I mean, we play clips of him all the time. But the one thing that really stuck out to me that she said was kids want discipline. 1,000%. They want it. They need it. They may not know it, but they want it and need it. And I found that just, you know, I took a step back because I don't think about things like that because I've never parented. I've never had to parent.
And I'm, you know, I'm vibing with it because as I like what I like to say is I said deep down everybody wants to be led. They do. And it doesn't matter what the age is. At your work, you want to be led. In sports, you want to be led. In your household, you want to be led. We claim we want this autonomy. And I always say this, Drew Down. It's like the worst thing ever would be if we were just freely turned over to ourselves. That's it. It's just me making decisions for me all the time about me. Like, that'd be miserable. And most people can't handle that. So I think at some point, the more it becomes about something other than you and you've had leadership modeled, I mean, that's the recipe, which is what I think she's hoping. Well, and if she's not a fan, you know, she's alluding to, you know, Nebraska's banking on that success. Some of these recruiting stories, when you talk about, you know, I was just talking to DJ yesterday about Coach Freeman at Notre Dame and some of the things that he represents. And you know what he talked about first? Family. You know what we talk about with Coach Rule first? Family. Isn't that weird? Like, and I know, so when you said you don't think about things like that because you're not a parent, I always wondered the correlation. He told a great story about Clark Lee at Vanderbilt too. And Coach Lee is only 40 some years old, and he was relating it to parenting and kids receiving instruction and kind of feeling like, you're too old, you're not this, that, and the other. But how other people of older ages can seek wisdom from people that are older than them. Like, a coach being in their 40s, seeking counsel from somebody in their 50s. Yet sometimes young people in their teens don't want counsel from somebody like that's in their 40s or 50s, right? And when does that crossover happen? Like, because at some point, your dad has more value to you now than he did at any point when you were growing up. And the weird thing about that is you're older. So you think it would be just the opposite.
Yeah, the other way around.
It's a phenomenon. I'm telling you, she may be onto something, because I think that's how they think they're going to win early on.
100%. I think that's how they think they'll be successful, because you're not just going to produce wins right away. You need to get that buy-in first. You have to set those relationships, and you have to play for one another.
Well, you need parameters in which to operate too, right? Like, it can't, when you have 150 people, let alone 6 or 7 in your household, it can't just be a free-for-all. It's chaos.
Yep. Instruction was a great word that you used.
Like you need to, and sometimes like
you need a step A through a step F.
And sometimes, like in families, discipline and structure, having boundaries can be the great equalizer for maybe not having fiscal revenue or being overly wealthy or not having much. Like the same as not having high-end talent. Sometimes the great equalizer sometimes can be your chemistry, camaraderie, and how you work within said culture. There's some crazy similarities. We probably should stay with this, because there's something to what you guys were talking about.
They're building a handbook. They're building a handbook for themselves. You can't just get instructions to build a table and expect to do it on the fly. You have to follow the steps to get to the final product.
I'm listening.
Stick around. More CNC after the break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Varsity Radio.
Dansby cracks one in the air, deep center.
Seconds.
Back goes Weimer. Back near the
Radio.
Dansby cracks one in the air, deep field fence. That ball is gone. Back near the center field.
Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
You know, we talked a little bit about the taxi squad. We talked some minor league baseball, major league baseball. Did you check out any minor league baseball over the weekend? I heard if you attended the Storm Chasers game, it was pretty fun.
They do it right.
And they had, let's say, a pretty good fireworks show as well.
Steady Eddies.
So that's not the only time, though, that Storm Chaser games are fun. You can even find good promotional giveaway nights, or you could just find your favorite team, whether it's a major league team and, you know, their minor league systems in town. Go check out the Omaha Storm Chasers if you get a chance. Jordy Ball night was over the weekend as well, which that line was longer than the jersey giveaway night.
Her impact and Q rating is just through the roof. Like, you talk about a Pied Piper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's
the ball effect is real.
It's unbelievable.
It is nuts.
And you know, and how many times is it better after it started a different way? Like, I mean, would it be like this if she was here from the beginning? I don't know. I just know that what's happened since she's been at Oklahoma, and softball fans having to get over what happened when she chose Oklahoma, then the coming back, it's like some storybook.
And I don't think anybody is. Are you still trying to get over that?
No.
I don't think anybody is. And maybe it's because she's so good at answering the question and answering the call, and because of the success she had somewhere else.
And even before she left, like, she talked about the recruiting and like feeling like it was about things bigger than just the sport there and what drew her there to begin with. And I just think people understood.
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about with discipline and just overall care. So when I was chatting with my mom, I wanted to get her thoughts on paper so that I could bring them up here, because the point she made up, which you don't think about as a kid, you don't think about when your parents are quote unquote strict, that it actually in turn leads to them just caring about you and your well-being versus if your parents kind of let you do whatever you wanted growing up. Some may wonder deep down if they actually care and are looking for that in those developmental times. So she's like, this is what she said. She said, I'm not sure what you're exactly looking for, and this just touches the surface, but we talked about there are kids that will tell you they love that they can do what they want and their parents let them do anything and don't have a curfew, etc., things like that. But deep down, they wonder if their parents really care.
I wonder if that's I could buy into that. Had a conversation yesterday morning. I was just walking around outside and I was talking to DJ on the phone, and we were talking. Well, there's a lot of things, but we're just basically talking about coaching, and he does a lot of leadership and life coaching, like within families. And I was saying to him, there's such a fine line with some of our crew that we're coaching, where it's kind of the off season, but it's not the off season. Like, we're working now, and it's a slow burn. And sometimes you worry about saying too much too often. Hey, in this workout I want to, or at this workout or evaluating this 7-on-7. But I said the worst thing you could do is when you stop talking to the players, right? You just kind of let them do their own thing. And I was joking with him. I said, I always tell our players, whether it was young guys, I was coaching the youth or whatever, I said, don't worry about when I do talk to you. Worry about when I don't. Right? Like, because as a coach, if or a mentor or whatever, or your parenting, like, that means probably that whatever you're saying to them isn't having any impact, or they're not listening anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you just stop. You just stop saying it, and there's a fine line. Because sometimes you hear parents, and it happens a little bit more with the younger generation, newer. Not that I'm going all Walt Kowalski, like, get off my lawn, but I do think there's this bartering back and forth where I did it too, or I did the same thing, or that used to be me.
Well, he got to do that, so why can't I?
And we just. And I just don't think that's the answer, because you always want people to be better. You want them to be better than you were. You don't want them to have to go through kind of some of the things that you went to. And you can humble yourself, or you can be humbled. And if you pick the latter, it can hurt.
Well, you had said just right there, and what's really comparative to what Coach Rule does is, when I'm not talking to you, that's when you should worry.
Yeah. I'm like
that's when Coach Rule's basically saying, like, hey, the door is there.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be here. That's fine. That's cool. I'm not going to put my time and effort to try to keep you here when I have 149 other guys.
Right, not coaching to the 10%. He uttered the fame. I don't know if this was in private or public, but he said, he goes, I've got a track record, right? I've had a way of doing business. It hasn't all been great all the time, but it has been this upward ascent, and now I'm here. So apparently, I know a little bit. Why would you argue with me? Why would you be combative with me? Do you not think that I don't want the best for you? Do you not think I don't want to win? Like, what are we arguing about here? I mean, can just imagine a coach having a conversation with a player like that, and how it could just immediately stop you in your tracks. Like, why wouldn't you listen? Have you done this before? Do you know what I mean? And it was just the way that he was saying it, and I was like, and that was the first time that I thought to myself, you know what? This is probably what a lot of good leaders do. This is probably what a lot of good coaches do. We just simply aren't used to it. We don't hear it out loud. It's not typically expressed to us out loud, whether it's through media outlets or sit downs. And I just think we don't know how to consume it. So we fight it, right? Is it roulade? Is this really going to work? No, just take it for what it is.
Right now.
this like right now.
Admit to not knowing, because it's okay if you're upfront and honest right away.
And it's
versus
tough.
if you're combative.
I know.
If you think
I
you
know.
can do it yourself, if you
Yeah.
think you can figure this out on your own, you're probably wrong. Like there's somebody else that's done it before. Listen to that person first.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I just would think, and I don't know where it goes wrong with some young people and standards, but like if somebody's doing things and they've been successful, or they've accomplished some things, why wouldn't you listen? Like, what makes it like baloney to begin with? But I just think there's this subconscious bartering and negotiating now because we're so afraid to lose kids. And I just, to bring it back to running the program, the whole competitive thing in life and having winners and losers and competing for your job and not wanting it to be Disneyland and coaches to be held accountable. And like, that's really, that's life, right? And he's just saying it out loud for his team, which is the same thing. Why I like where your mom was going with this. I think it's the same thing about leadership in households. Like, so sometimes in our subconscious, we're like, there's this feeling of wanting to be well liked. You want to make sure that you get along. You don't want them to push you away because you don't want them making bad decisions behind your back, and it's no real manual. There's just best practices. And you just have to hope that those best practices, can hold it down. And I'm telling you, they can be the great equalizer for, sometimes fiscal mobility. I talked about fiscal mobility or whatever, like just the other centered boundaries and the guy, you're talking to a guy that's not good with boundaries, right? Like stretches himself way thin, even though it probably shouldn't, like, right. But I understand if it's, I don't want it to be about me. I want you to be a better version of you. And sometimes I'll be willing to kind of be miserable, for lack of a better word. Like I'll go through it for a while.
You'll put yourself last.
Because I know I'll figure it out because I've been at bottom. It's not healthy. I don't recommend it. But what I'm saying is when you're coaching and you're empowering other people, it's so you don't have to go through that. That's really what it is. When Coach Rule tells you it's too transactional, the NFL was too transactional. I don't like why he's a second chance guy as long as you're appreciative and understand what comes with the responsibility. That's not substitute parenting for coaching because that's really what it is. Now, how that, lends itself to W's, I'm not sure. But in the meantime, while you're trying to build, I don't know if there's a better place to start.
There's a movie out there called The Ugly Truth. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't.
And
I still haven't seen Independence Day. You think I've seen The Ugly Truth?
I don't know. You've seen a lot of movies.
That's bad movies.
But it's kind of like what you're saying here is you got to put your feelings aside and you just got to like look at the ugly truth.
Yeah.
You just got to just look at what it is.
Like my dad used to tell me, don't ask me any questions you don't want to know the answer to. Like, what? What do you mean? No, I'm serious.
Now you know. Now you know.
I
do.
And
you probably say the same thing to your boys and girls.
Yeah, and it's just like it's the good leadership.
And when I said boys, I meant like more your team, your football team,
yeah, all
over just your immediate household.
Yeah, it's just like, do you really want to know? Okay. Yeah, and it's so weird how it affects my personality because Shane, you remember this? Like my first stretches when I first started, when I was getting out of education into the sports media talk, and it used to always bug me when hey, how you doing today, or what's up, or you good? And in my head, I always used to think I never really would respond or engage. I just
you in the mood or what?
Yeah, I am. Because not really. I always used to wonder if they really wanted to know. And so sometimes I would say, Shane, you've heard me say, do you really want to know, or are you just saying that to be saying it?
Sometimes I'd be saying it just to be saying it. Hey, can I say one other thing about Independence
Day?
No,
because every morning, right? Like it'd be like, hey, he had the same greeting. I said, you really want to know, or are you just saying that to be saying it? Because I was always on guard about authenticity. Go ahead.
Can I say one thing about Independence Day since you brought it back up again?
Are you gonna tell me like
it surprises me that you guys hadn't seen it, because there's always there's movies that are on the timeline that like started a standard in movies like Star Wars, and then
Which
Batman.
was on a ton this weekend.
Star Wars?
Oh, fuck.
Batman, the '89 Batman. I mean, that ushered in the superhero movie. But '96, when Independence Day came out, that reinvigorated the disaster movies. So you had Twister after that. You had Titanic. You just had a ton of those movies came after that.
So Independence Day is a disaster.
So Independence Day is like the lion in the food chain.
It's
and everything else falls beneath it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just one of those movies that are just on the timeline like that.
We still have Kurt.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go to the phone, 888-638-4876 if you want to join the conversation. Kurt, good morning.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, you had me thinking. I love the conversation about expectations of kids and structure and how it parallels to parenting. And I know there's no data point, but I'm guessing some of the best coaches out there are probably pretty darn good parents, because they, generally speaking, one speaks to the other. If you're coaching parenting, you got to find a way to relate to kids. I think the hard part is the disciplining, yet not losing trust through that discipline. And
yeah,
I'm a father of two, and I've told my kids, like, if you don't trust me, it doesn't matter how I discipline you, because you'll just run away and hide. And in coaching, you've got to find that balance. And I have a ton of respect for the ones that can do it, because kids don't get any easier today. So I think
say that for me one more time, Kurt. That may make a T-shirt. If you don't trust me, it doesn't matter
how you
I discipline.
Yeah, I mean, and literally that's why I've told my kids, if you got a playbook on how to be a parent, I'll gladly read it, but there isn't one. That's the.
I think that's the beauty behind it, though. That's the beauty behind it, because a lot of it is how you were raised, and if you were raised in a poor light, all right, how am I going to change that with my kids? Or
But I kind of think you nailed it,
strong
though,
parents,
right? Because isn't that why you think
that?
kids don't receive the information very well that you're trying to tell them? Because there's a lack of trust.
Yeah, and I didn't come to that realization until I had a conversation with them, because if behavior doesn't change, the consequence isn't effective.
Yeah,
so
it's just punitive.
I just sat down and, like, guys, like, I'm looking for a change in behavior. It's not happening. Why? And they're like, because all you do is, we just get grounded, or we lose this and it doesn't work. I'm like, okay, well then what works? And then they didn't really have an answer. And so I came up with the relationship side of it. I'm like, if we don't have a relationship, and if you don't trust that what I'm doing is in your best interest, whatever I'm doing doesn't matter. Can we agree on that? And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. So,
and that was the starting point, right?
Yeah. And I tell them, like, guys, half the time I'm winging this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to do my best. And I think that's what everybody does, whether you're coaching, whether you're parenting, and kids can feel it. If they know you truly have their best interest at heart, they'll figure it out. Maybe not right away, but at some point they do.
Fantastic stuff, Kurt.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
I need to call my guy over at Triple B. That may be a T-shirt.
Sometimes I think there's a lot of truth to that, but in another sense, I think there's also a lot of truth to when you're listening to your parents, like, they know more than you. So you just have to do what they say, because they're the ones taking care of you at the end of the day. Like, there isn't even if I got grounded as a child, like, did I learn from that, or you took away my whatever toy? Did I learn from that? It's more just the principle behind, no, I'm your parent and this is how we do things here. And if you don't like it, then too bad.
I like the trust discipline thing. I used to fast forward to the very end, and I would always say, I've said this for years, when you lose hope, the consequences don't matter. Right? That's why repetitive behavior and and habitual criminal, like you just lost hope. So it's not about really the consequences. So the punishment never really is the thing. I had this fantastic conversation on the way to the airport with Caleb, and it was just the two of us, and I told him, I said, what I'm starting to see now over the last month was kind of what I was after a year ago in the off season. And, he's going deep, and he's talking about, learning on his own time, and it wouldn't have had as much impact. And I said, and he said, well, what's been the issue? And I said, I was just afraid, right? Like I was afraid that you were going to run out of time. And I don't even know in time for what.
Because we talk about does time matter?
And he goes, what? And I go, I just thought it was going to be too late. And he said, what was too late? And I didn't have a great answer. Now this is again in like a 20 some odd minute drive. And we basically were talking about his team and growth and stuff. And I go, I don't know, but for whatever the reason, as a parent, I put you up against the clock. And like I had like this moment where I'm like,
is that because you saw other people doing it a different way? Or maybe faster?
Well, it was lots of things, whether it's different or faster or the way that I envision it's a culmination of things, right? Like, man, you have a facility right down the street, do this, or you play all these different sports, just do this, or you act like this, just do this, or you want to be recruited like this, just like there's like this imaginary clock that I put him on, knowing that like, whatever the timing is, it'll be. It's not like I can't define it. I couldn't even put it in words. And it's kind of how I feel like coaching. It's like, hey, we say these convoluted terms, right? Or like, well, when you're not working, other people are. I mean, they don't really put that into. So you mean, what's the difference if I have a workout at 9 and I don't want to go to it, and I go at 12:30 and my time's cut or whatever, like somebody else out there is probably is working, and typically when you meet those people, they'll beat you head to head, but it's hard to get the connection made between who you're talking to, like if it's your team or whatever, until it actually happens. And then you can't say, see, I told you, because resentment can build and the lack of trust can build, but there's this imaginary clock that coaches have, that parents have. That's why they schedule the way that they do. You think it was coincidence that Coach Rule wanted eight weeks for winter and pushed the spring game back? Well, he said, hey, listen, I know we're going to run up against it. I could get some soft tissue tweaks early, but I wanted a full 8 weeks because my data points show me that after such and such a time, this is when this happens. I'm going to roll with the 8 weeks and we're going to push it back. Okay, sounds good. Everybody has to trust that. You have to know how to do the downtime.
And
right?
That's the best interest thing that Kurt was referring to when he was talking.
Well, and it's like I told you, right? And that's why my circle is so small and I don't share a ton. I know it seems like I do, like on air, but like not in my, like when I go home, I'm going to go sit in my house and pretend not to be miserable, right? Kind of, but not really. So I'd say, Andrew, you can say anything to me and I can receive it because I think you have my best interest at heart. So do I love it sometimes?
You say that a lot.
But because I think that I know that that's how I function, right? Like, and at some point you cross this mythical line with your parents where it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can say that to me because I know you care about me. But you just don't know
when
that's.
You can be strict with me because I know you care about me.
Wouldn't it be nice if we got that early? Because for some reason we can't just get there's two players in particular that come to mind on this football team that didn't want the discipline early. Just fought it like crazy. He's like, no, we're going to do this a certain way, and it's because I care. And the sentiment was, without saying it out loud, well, if you really cared, you'd let me be. No, because I do care, I won't let you be. Right? And I don't know what the magic coaching point is or the magic parenting point or whatever, but when that thing happens, it's amazing what you can say to somebody and they receive it differently. It's just weird how as you get older, you love and want the discipline and guidance of older people when it should be just the opposite, because you're gaining more freedom as a mature adult.
But I think you want it more when you're older because you know you're going to be that. When you're younger, you don't want the discipline because you want to just do you. But when you're older, you want to be where they are someday. And in order to get there, get there, you have to listen. You have to be a learner, a lifelong learner, as you say. And you have to make sure that you put everybody at the level of best interest. Nebraska, period, sports, period. Gone in 60 seconds. Up next.
Rogers and Benning. Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. and Benning. We'll be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. He's DB. I'm Andrew Rogers, or AR-15 in DB's phone. As we found out, he's got majority nicknames, but he does know who all of you are now. It didn't start that way, but he knows it now. Welcome back to the show. We're happy to have you with us. Thanks for the call earlier, Kurt. Thanks to Andy Kendeigh and Brian Christopherson as well for joining the show. We'll change gears. We'll play a game. We started it last week, and it was a real thinker for DB because
tough.
You have to get as many right as you can in 60 seconds. Now, we still have yet to really come up with the best way to award somebody, but we're going to try it again the way we did it last week. If we still like it, I think this is what we did decide. We're going to get some callers, and they're going to go one-on-one with you.
See how many.
To see how many they can also name versus you, whoever gets the most.
Different topic, same deal, like they go or then I go?
I think yes. So if we have two callers, just say we'll do one that's NBA oriented, we'll do one that's baseball oriented, and we'll go through the list. Whether we get through all the teams or not, who cares?
Okay.
But it will give the opportunity for the best matchup, and I guess the fairest matchup, because if I say we're going to do all NBA and it's this one prompt and you're facing off against some guy named Joe first, well, and say somebody named Chris is on hold, but they know the prompt and they can just look up the teams or whatever, and then they could cheat. So we're going to change the prompt. But for this game in particular, let's just do this.
What do we got?
So if you are commenting, which we appreciate all the comments we get on the show. Thomas, 515 Dave, Ken.
I call
Daniel.
Thomas TK like I've known him forever.
Yep. We have 4 that are actively on StreamYard. Take a number on how many you think DB will get right in this first set. If that is,
they don't even know how many questions, right?
Closest to. No, well, because it's just as many as you can answer in the allotted time. If you are closest to, or you get the number exactly right, we'll give you a gift card to Hail Varsity Club.
Sounds fair.
So, Shane, get the music going. I'll give 10 seconds here. Okay? We'll see if any numbers come in. Okay. If not, we're going to play the game. And I just feel generous today, so I want to give something away. So today is an NBA prompt, DB.
Oh, boy. I like the NBA.
Put your thinking cap on.
Shane's got the clock rolling, too. Look at him. You professional, you.
I'm on it today.
I see you. Are you producing?
Oh, is this the clock we're going to go off of, Shane?
That's
right
pretty
here?
Cool right there.
All right.
How about that?
I don't have to keep track. It's right in front of us. And this helps you because you can reference it a lot quicker. Amazing Daniel. Is it actors' names? I have a guess. No, it's an NBA.
Oh, man. This dude. Okay.
All right. We're going to kick this thing off.
Not feeling particularly
Somebody gets it right, we'll be good to go. Ken, oh no, I haven't watched the NBA since they did away with hand checking. Guys, I'm not asking for pointers. I'm not asking for opinions. Give me a number.
Right.
How many will DB get right? All right, you ready for this?
I'm
DB,
ready.
NBA all-time leading scorer by franchise.
Oh, boy.
Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, Shane. Clock starts in 3, 2, 1. Miami Heat.
Dwayne Wade.
Milwaukee Bucks.
Let's go Marcus Johnson.
Minnesota Timberwolves.
Kevin Garnett.
New Orleans Pelicans.
God, they were the Jazz. Just that franchise?
Just the franchise of the Pelicans.
What's his buckets from Duke? Brandon Ingram.
Lakers.
Kareem.
Grizzlies.
Ooh. Pass.
Knicks.
Patrick Ewing.
Thunder.
Kevin Durant.
Magic.
Tracy McGrady.
Warriors. Get it, Ed.
Mitch Richmond.
All right.
Should have went Steph Curry. How did I not go Steph Curry? See, I overthought that one.
Yeah, you did, because it is Steph Curry.
Yeah. Overthought it.
How many think you got right, DB?
How many questions did you ask me?
1, 4, 8, 10.
This is by far the hardest game. I got 5 right.
You got 3 right, and you passed on 1.
Fudge. It didn't feel great.
So we'll go through these answers, and now that you're warmed up, we'll do it again.
That did not feel great.
Miami Heat, yes, on Dwayne Wade. Milwaukee Bucks. Who'd you say?
Marcus Johnson.
It is not him. It's a recent guy.
Akumpo?
Antetokounmpo. He has said
Doesn't
it.
seem like he played long enough.
Some of
when
these
you go for 30.
Some of these you don't, and you'll probably kick yourself over the Pelicans. Timberwolves, Kevin Garnett. That is correct. The Pelicans is not Ingram, but you were on the right track with a young guy, or I should say, not a young guy, but like somebody you should know.
Anthony Davis.
That is correct. Lakers. You
Kareem.
said Kareem. It is not Kareem.
Really?
It's your boy on your
Kobe.
sweatshirt.
Kobe.
Mhm. It is Kobe.
Oh, and that's right, because he's the all-time NBA's leading scorer, in LeBron, but he did a lot of that with the Bucks too.
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
He was Lou Alcindor then.
You
Doesn't
got
count.
Ewing right for the Knicks. You missed on the Thunder and Magic. You said Durant. It is not Durant.
It's
It is
Westbrook.
the other Westbrook. And the Magic, you said
McGrady.
and it is
Shaq.
Dwight
Howard. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
So good warm-up. You missed the Grizzlies. You passed. Would you like to just take a guess now, or you want me to throw it into the next one? I'll give you a chance to think about it a little bit.
Such a young franchise.
Mm-hmm. And such a gross player.
Tell me.
Mike Conley.
Oh, you know what? Never mind. Because I was going to say push booty. Because his jumpers, he would stick his bum out. Man, really? But he did have a good 4-year stretch.
Ken started with 4, and then he went to 18. I don't know if we're going in total here.
All right, who's
but,
that? What?
But Ken, you were close with 4, so I'll give it to you.
All right. So are we gonna do one more?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I'm all right. I'm feeling
You're good because this is gone in 60 seconds. All we need is a minute, right, Shane? You
All
got the
right.
clock loaded up again for 1 minute, Shane?
I've got to load it up.
It is NBA still.
Poop.
Loosen up.
All
You're
right.
good.
All right.
All right,
I only
Shane.
got through 10.
10.
That is
In
awful.
a minute.
That is awful.
That's, I mean,
But
pretty
you hit
close
me
every
with
5
new
seconds.
franchises too.
Yep, I did. All right, here we go.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Houston Rockets.
Hakeem Olajuwon.
Pacers.
Reggie Miller.
Nets.
Bernard King.
Hornets.
Alonzo Mourning.
Bulls.
Jordan.
Cavs.
LeBron.
Mavericks.
Dirk.
Spurs.
Duncan.
Raptors.
Vince Carter.
Jazz.
Maravich.
Trailblazers.
Shoot, is it Malone?
You can go back if you want.
Give me Malone.
Okay. Trailblazers.
Lillard.
Kings.
Reggie Theus.
Pistons.
Oh gosh. I'll go Zeke.
Hawks.
Dominique Wilkins.
Celtics.
Bird.
Okay. You went through a lot there. That was well done.
I'm going to guess Kevin
1,
for
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Mikhail.
No, Bird got
You went through
McHale.
15 there. That's well done.
I'm going to guess 10.
You got 10 right.
Yeah, how many did I get?
8.
Darn.
8 right.
Okay.
You
now
were
I'm-
on a heater to
now-
open this thing
Now
up.
I'm kind of pissed.
The Rockets, Hakeem.
Okay.
Pacers, Reggie.
Yep.
You missed the Nets and the Hornets. The Nets, big man, still playing, I think. Had a brother. Played in the league.
Fudge.
Played for the Bulls. His brother did. Brooks Lopez.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh. I'd have been here a while.
Yep. Hornets, Kemba Walker.
Oh, that was quick.
Mm-hmm.
He did that in like 6 years.
Yep. Then you had Jordan, James, Nowitzki, Duncan. You missed the Raptors. Still playing. Really good player. Plays for the Bulls now.
Oh, DeMar DeRozan.
DeMar DeRozan. You switched to Malone. That is correct. Blazers, Clyde Drexler.
Yeah.
Kings, Oscar Robertson.
I'm pissed about that one. Reggie Theus didn't even play long enough.
Pistons,
Well, he did, but-
Isaiah Thomas.
I
You
said
got
Zeke,
Wilkins and John Havlicek for the
Havlicek steals the ball.
Celtics.
See, the reason I worried about Bird is because he had such a short career.
That is true.
He really only played 9 full seasons.
That is true.
I think 11 total.
Jesse Rogers, MLB insider for ESPN, up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes.
Home run, and the Cubs lead 2-0.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Dansby cracks one in the air, deep center. Back goes Weimer, back near the center field fence. That ball is gone. Dansby Swanson with a long home run, and the Cubs lead 2-0.
Welcome back as we wind this thing down on a Wednesday. We talk to Jesse Rogers, MLB insider for ESPN, at Jesse Rogers ESPN on Twitter. He just came out with a new book, co-authored The Franchise, Chicago Cubs, A Curated History of the North Siders. You can get that book on Amazon. You can find it at Barnes & Noble. I saw a link for Target. You can basically find this book anywhere, and go check it out. Give Jesse Rogers some love in purchasing the book. Let's welcome in Jesse now. Good morning.
You're hilarious. You say Target. I
Yeah.
say Targetto.
Good to be with you guys. Good morning.
Jesse, good morning. How you been besides busy trying to keep up with how your Cubbies have a plus run differential and a losing record?
Yeah, I go through stages where I think run differential is kind of meaningless, and then the other times it does have some meaning. It just depends how you look at it. It's interesting in talking to executives, especially Jed Hoyer over at the Cubs. They don't look at the one-run wins and losses the way the public kind of does. They actually look at the what they call the blowout wins, which are 5 runs or more, the wins and losses by 5 or more, and that's kind of how they judge their team. The one-run wins or losses are sort of a roll of the dice. You know, you'll go through stretches where you win some, you lose some, years where you win some, lose some. But the telling stat to them is the 5-run wins and losses and what that means to your team. So I guess in this case, the run differential does have some meaning for the Cubs, but their record is their record, and it better reverse itself or there's going to be a different kind of trade deadline than anyone hoped.
Jesse, at what point do the Cubs and the Cardinals both have to say that, hey, 7 back, 11.5 back just aren't enough when you look at having a losing record? Because if you look at another team, say in the East, and you see the Phillies, they're also 11.5 back of the Braves, but they have a winning record and they have things going well for them.
Yeah, I mean, and also the Phillies are much closer to the wild card hunt, right? They're in fact, they have the 3rd spot
right
as of this morning. So that's a different scenario. Look, the Cardinals are probably there already. I give them a little bit of a caveat because it's the Cardinals. They almost never sell. But I think in their minds, they know that they're going to have to move their pending free agents. Jordan Montgomery's number 1 on that list. They need to retool that starting staff. Now, they could always re-sign Montgomery now or in the offseason. Like, they need pitching. So as soon as the Cardinals trade someone, they need to replace him. But if he's going to walk away and go to another team in free agency, then, you know, the biggest malpractice is to not get something for him. That's always been my theory. Like, if you're going to lose in the standings, you better win something in the summer, and that something can be the trade deadline. So I think the Cardinals are already there. Cubs are getting closer. They're getting closer. You have to remember, again, so let's just eliminate the wild card because there's like 8 teams ahead of them. So if you're just 7 out of the division, but in 4th place, that's really like being 10 or 11 out, because it's not as easy as, you know, the Reds have to lose 7 in a row and you win 7 in a row, which is hard enough. You have 2 other teams ahead of you. Now, I think they're better than the Pittsburgh Pirates, but they're not necessarily better than the Brewers. So 7 out feels a lot worse, and it feels a lot worse when you're 6 games under 500 as well. So if you ask me today, the Cubs are likely to move on from a couple pending free agents rather than go the other way around. But the thing about their situation is, just like we saw a couple weeks ago, 1 run can make the difference. And yesterday's win, for example, was huge in that department. I mean, every game this month is now going to be huge, especially with the with the All-Star game taking away 4 days. Like, there's not as many games this month. So post-trade deadline, they have a huge homestand. Post-All-Star game, they have a huge homestand. They really have to go to work there. The Red Sox were okay. They're not the best team in the world. The Nationals, obviously the Cardinals are pretty bad. That's where they have to make a move. And if they don't, they'll be trading. But I don't think it's been completely determined yet.
All right. So Rendon done for a bit. Trout going to the IL. Ohtani's not great either with the injuries to the Angels. And I know Moreno wanted to sell early and kind of changed his mind after exploring the sale. But are they one and the same whether Ohtani moves and the Angels make a move? Because this season, they've played pretty well. If you're Moreno, do you spend?
Well, I think that's another one where you wait all the way up until the deadline. You mentioned the injuries. You mentioned Trout. They're now just 45 and 43. Now, there's only basically 2 teams ahead of them in the wild card race, but there's a lot of teams right behind them. So, again, if the Angels fall to 8th in the wild card race and they're a 500 team come near the trade deadline and Trout's still hurt, I think they're going to have to sell. And that would, I know the GM, Perry Manayason, would, look, you have to explore the Ohtani situation. It's a tough one, but you have to explore it. You know the haul that you can get for them. They can revitalize their franchise if they think they won't be able to sign him. Manayason is going to have a sit-down face-to-face with his agent, with Ohtani, before the deadline if this thing continues to go south. I don't think the Angels are a playoff team. And they're in their heart of hearts, they're going to have to figure that out sooner rather than later. There's always that scenario of trading him and then re-signing him, which would be amazing, right? But once you let him go, that opens that possibility that he signs somewhere else, especially a guy who's leaving his first team. I remember talking to a bunch of players about this over the years. Once, John Lester, once he left the Red Sox and was traded to the A's, then when free agency happened, it was everybody and anything was available to him. If he had stayed with the Red Sox all year, he may have re-signed with them just because it was his only place he knew. So this is the risk Manayason, has in trading him away. He's probably not going to get him back. So they really have to have that talk about, are you going to re-sign? Are you going to take us seriously now or at the end of the year? Because, again, I'll use the word, it's malpractice. If you're going to just fall in the standings, you have the greatest trade chip in the history of the game, and you play out the 2 months and he leaves. Like, you've got to be able to make that tough decision.
On the heels of great starting pitching, Alek Manoah rejoins the rotation for the Blue Jays. A Cy Young finalist last year, demoted this year. Do you think the Jays staff is taking the right approach in saying, figure it out in the league now over the lower levels?
That's a good question. I picked him to win the Cy Young this year, so what do I know?
Well, I took Castillo, so I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I think when you get in situations like this, in some ways, it's a little bit of a Hail Mary. You throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Look, he can go right back down if it doesn't work up here. Maybe they feel like the adjustments he's made, even though the numbers didn't show it down there, are okay. I'm not as close to the Blue Jays as other people, but I just feel like you're just throwing Hail Marys, right? Let's see if this works. Let's see if that works. Let's see if the adrenaline returns and the break from the pressure helps them out. I mean, they're 10 out as well, but they're in the wild card race, so they can't afford to just give away games. I got to see how this plays out. It's really unusual to see a fall from grace that quickly, and what they did to him, sending him to the spring facility and now sort of building back his confidence up. I don't know the answer there. I don't think anybody really knows. I think the Blue Jays are just kind of throwing something to the wall and see if it works.
Jesse, after the Braves, I'm going to concede, in the National League, who's the most complete to make a playoff run?
Well, okay. I mean, the Phillies have all the ingredients. I just wonder if that pitching staff has been sort of worn out. Like, we know that Nola and Wheeler haven't had the best seasons, but guys are starting to turn around. I watched Ranger Suarez close up the other day. There's something good there. He got a late start to his season because of injury. I mean, on paper, it's the Phillies, right? But paper doesn't win you championships. So I'll put them in the mix. But certainly Arizona and the Dodgers are really good. The Dodgers aren't showing it every night, but we know that they have it in them. And Arizona, without the experience you'd expect, has the ingredients. It has the ingredients, just doesn't have the experience. So that's why I sort of fall back on Philadelphia, because they've been there, they've done that, and they have the talent. It just is starting to come to fruition. So I'll still say Philly over anybody else, though Arizona and the Dodgers are damn good.
What is the league figuring out about Merrill Kelly in Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Look, some of these guys that pitched in the WBC, Adam Wainwright, Lance Lynn, like, it hasn't always worked out for them. When you take a guy off his routine in the off season and you ask him to do something he hasn't done his whole career, basically, I feel like, yeah, maybe he has a little jolt early on, but that's going to catch up with you a little bit. And that's one thing that I'll look at with pitchers, that played in the WBC. What's not working later on? And the home run bug has caught him a little bit, but he's still a damn good pitcher, and I still think this is a good team. Just doesn't have a lot of experience, and that's why I think that at the end they may have a great season, but I don't necessarily pick the Diamondbacks to go very far in October.
Jesse, quickly here, before we let you go, the MLB draft is coming our way starting on Sunday. We got to see a lot of the talent we'll see at the top of the board here in Omaha. But what would you say is kind of like the do and don'ts of like the top 5 picks for some of these teams in regards to if they strike out or if they hit a home run with their pick?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a shortstop deep class. There's some good outfielders at the top. I mean, the the LSU guys should go 1-2. I don't think you want to overthink those 2 picks that much, though I guess you could decide which one you want better. Sometimes you want the hitter. It's more of a sure thing than the pitcher just because the injury factor. It really is a deep class of shortstops. So you can't go wrong taking a shortstop. I'll say that because you can always move them off that position. They can move. Usually it's a great athlete. Move them to the outfield, move them to second base. So that's kind of my thinking. Like, don't overthink the top 2 and take a shortstop if you're stuck.
Jesse Rogers, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for the time this morning. And again, check out his book, The Franchise, The Cubs. And then let me read this one more time.
We like
curated history of the
go.
Cubs. There it is. It's 3 things in one, and you're going to get a ton of great information because Jesse Rogers' name is plastered on the cover.
Hey,
thanks a lot, man.
That's impressive, Jesse. We appreciate you.
You got it, guys. Take care.
And thanks for joining us on the show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow.
That's it?
That's it, man.
What is going on?